Hello, my name is Bailey Phillips, and this is my video submission for the Unit 7 assignment, I believe, for EMS 4303, Legal, Political, and Regulatory Environment in EMS. I am pretty familiar with doing YouTube videos. I have my own YouTube channel as well, so I chose to do the YouTube video because it's a little bit more natural for me. I'm not speaking on the subjects that I'm typically talking on, which is my business and diving, but we'll give this a shot. I did do a little bit of research and looked up my department's policy to answer some of the questions. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me just read over again the prompt for this assignment. It states, you are the emergency medical services chief working for a suburban fire department that provides advanced life support, first response, and transport services. The organization is known for its high call volume and for being on the cutting edge of technology. Additionally, the organization and the personnel enjoy a very good working relationship with the hospital system and the staff. The medical command physician contacts you and shares that he has recently become aware of a case study in another part of the county where paramedics and local hospital staff were using their personal cell phones to communicate patients' names, assessment findings, and medical history. Additionally, the case study described pictures of patients and emergency scenes relevant to the patient care being shared in the same manner. Finally, the medical command physician shares with you that the case study detailed that the information was shared using the personal cell phones for both patients being transported and for the completion of patients' refusal care forms. The result revealed that the practice was believed to be widespread among the employees of both organizations. The medical command physician would like you to develop a training guide for the department personnel that addresses the following points. The first point being the purpose of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA. So the purpose of HIPAA is to make sure that patients always maintain their confidentiality when discussing personal matters to healthcare providers. For every patient that at least my fire department encounters, we have to do either patient care refusal or patient transport form. Both of those at the end, along with signing for the fact that we transported them to the hospital and that we will be sending them a bill in the mail so that they can send it off to their insurance. It's also pretty much stating that we went over HIPAA with them and that we're not going to disclose their information to anybody outside of the healthcare system. We're not going to sell their information to anybody. And it kind of maintains that confidentiality for them, makes everybody feel a little bit better. It's also the law. So the next question is, who must comply with HIPAA? Every healthcare provider must comply with HIPAA. There is no ifs, ands, or buts around it. I did notice that with law enforcement, there was kind of a HIPAA. There's a gray area when dealing with law enforcement because law enforcement is a lot of the times on our scenes nowadays, and they'll come up and ask us about like patient condition just so that they can have it in their report. And so my local fire department or my local police department started actually having the police officers sign a HIPAA consent as well within our own forms to make sure that they're not going to disclose that information to anybody about their medical condition. Now, any legal actions that they're trying to pursue, they can pursue, but they can't add any details on the patient's condition without getting their legal consent first in court. So to answer that question, everybody must comply with HIPAA as far as a healthcare professional standpoint goes, including EMS. So the next question is the patient information protected by HIPAA. What information is protected by HIPAA? So it goes from everything: the patient's name, social security number, address, patient's medical conditions like previous medical conditions, any allergies, what's going on with that patient currently, and birthdays, anything that we pretty much put in that report, if there was like patient confirmed to EMS that there was alcohol use, but denies use for denies the use to the police officer, if the patient consents to that HIPAA form being given to the law enforcement, then they'll have access to what they told me. But it's everything the patient discloses to the EMS providers will be protected under HIPAA. So the fire department policy for communicating with patient care information. Okay. Fire department policy for communicating patient care information to the emergency department. So I looked up my fire department's policy, as you can see right here. So that's for later. Our policy is very generic. Ours is mainly to define the training of HIPAA. The policy pretty much states that all members are necessary to abide by HIPAA while on duty. And that goes for any patient that we come in contact with. And then really it just defines the training requirements that the department sends out for us to make sure that we understand HIPAA. So that would be our overall policy when it comes to HIPAA, is that this is stating we must abide by it, and we have to approve of this semi-annually. So every 6 months we come in here and we approve this particular policy to make sure that we read and understand it. It really defines, like I said, the training guidelines the department sends out, but it also is covering HIPAA, making sure that we understand it so that we don't disclose any information to anyone we're not supposed to. The next question will be the use of personal cell phones for communicating patient care information to the hospital. That policy, as you saw earlier, is going to be this one: photography and electronic images. So this policy for my fire department, which is the Chesapeake Fire Department, is to authorize members to utilize photography and electronic imaging to document incidents and department activities that are subject to compliance with the specific regulations, conditions, and restrictions and guidelines. So right here, it specifies non-incident events that can be used with personal photography, and then these are incident-related events that you can use. So an example of like a non-incident would be documentation of department training events, exercises, lectures, class activities, and fire academy related activities. Incident related ones would be conditions of arrival during a structure fire. So a lot of these are defined by structure fire events, not necessarily anything to do with a patient. So there's no HIPAA when it comes to any structure fire extrication like that, as long as you're not showing the face of the patient or patient conditions. It's just showing the actual extrication and where a victim might be. Prohibited uses right here. It's very cut and dry. You cannot transmit anything that is within a HIPAA regulation, which we've already gone over what those would be. You can't take pictures of any personal people. Unless requested or received by the hospital medical control, you cannot use your phone. And even if medical control asks you to use your personal phone, which I've done to make phone calls to the charge nurse before, say we're having radio issues within the back of the ambulance, I'll use my cell phone as a backup because we don't get issued cell phones for the ambulances. And their cell phone is going to be the one that's encrypted with the hospital line, if that makes sense. So it can kind of get into a gray area, but I know that there's only one way of communication that I have. If that's the last way I have to be able to communicate what I got going on to the hospital, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to verify it's a charge nurse. I have a very good relationship with all the nurses at all the local hospitals. I know who they all are on a daily basis whenever I'm on shift because I'm at the hospital so much. So I'll know if it's the right person I'm talking to. Let's see. the collection and sharing of pictures of emergency scenes when it comes to patient care with the hospital staff. Again, on our tablets are HIPAA, like our tablets that we do our EPCRs on, they're just Apple tablets. I'm allowed to take a picture within my patient care report using the camera. It doesn't go into the camera roll of the actual tablet itself. It just goes directly into the image trend report, which is our reporting system. So it's still HIPAA compliant. And I will sometimes take pictures of car accident scenes or extrication scenes, structure fire scenes, just kind of give them a better picture of what's going on. Sometimes it helps the hospital staff, including the physicians and the nurses, know what's going on the outside where we found this patient, to be able to make a better clinical decision for them. To have that overall picture for them is huge, because sometimes we just show up and give them a very quick 30-second, 1-minute report, and then they leave and go start doing their thing. So it does help to kind of just close that loop of like, this is where we found this patient, this is how we found them, and this is what we did. And then have the pictures to kind of back it up. So the last one would be the consequences, including legal and political consequences for failing to comply with HIPAA. Consequences can include legal actions. The patient can sue you, and it would not be a good thing. Because if you're using your personal cell phone, taking pictures with patients, disclosing anything that we already talked about, like is HIPAA, you can be fired. Your department will hold you liable. They will fire you, and then the patient can even pursue and sue you as well. It can, if in a significant case, it can actually end up with jail time, but most likely you'll be terminated from your job. If you do it too many times, I'm sure that National Registry can come after your license or your certification. Sorry, and yeah, it's not a good day. So the last thing I kind of wanted to go over is I did look up a little bit more about HIPAA. We're kind of going back. This is from the United States Department of Health and Human Services. It's a summary of what HIPAA is. And I really just wanted to I highlighted this one right here. I know it's at the top, but it was interesting to me. I thought HIPAA had been around a lot longer. It looks like the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act was actually enacted in 1996, which is interesting because that's later in the game in EMS than I figured it would be. So I thought that was pretty cool. The rest of what's in here I kind of already summarized when I talked about HIPAA. It just kind of oversights everything. Other than that, I appreciate your time, and I hope that this was the information that was needed. Thank you.